Hi everyone, I'm Mark Murray and welcome to this edition of CityVision. Here we are at the House Shepherd Fire Headquarters at Front and Pershing, and on the first snowfall of the year. But we're here today for an important purpose. What we're going to do is we're going to show you the state-of-the-art technology back in the day, and then we're going to show you what passes for state-of-the-art technology today. And it's also our fire department can be there to respond to you when you need it most. I'll see you inside. Hi everyone, I'm here with Deputy Chief Larry Gassert.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Oh, good. Thanks for coming out and doing this with us today.
Thanks for coming down to see us.
We're looking at Neptune 1. Tell us about Neptune 1.
Neptune is a 1873 Aaron's Fox steam pumper that was actually used in the Hamilton area back before Hamilton and Rossville were split. So this would have been on the west side of the city in the Rossville district. And that fire station was over right around where Clark's Sporting Goods is on B Street.
Wow. Okay. Now, how many firefighters would have rode on this thing?
There probably would have been 3 to 4. There would have been a teamster that drove up front, probably with an officer up front. And on the back, there'd be 2 firefighters that would stoke the boiler that actually pumped the water on the way to the fire.
Okay, well, one of the things we're going to be talking about today is the new Active911 system,
Right.
But what I want to see is what passed for state-of-the-art way back when, because you've got some interesting pieces here to show us.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right.
Larry, the Gamewell Fire Alarm Telegraph Company, this thing looks interesting.
Yeah, this would probably been right around the turn of the century, from the 1800s to the 1900s, and what it would do is it would collect the alarms from the call boxes or even in industry, and it would bring those alarms into our alarm room, where then they would be distributed by a telegraph back out to the fire stations through box codes and things like that.
So where did this piece sit? Where was this located?
This piece would have sat at the headquarters station, which would have been station number 2, and this was probably up in the old city building at one point, if it hadn't been replaced by then.
Okay.
Or certainly the old engine company too that was on South 3rd Street, right around where the railroad tracks are.
And there's more to this underneath here?
Yeah, there's a set of weights underneath here, and what the weights do is these systems have to be wound. They're completely mechanical. They do have an electrical component in it. They send out electrical impulses, but you can see through here, these would be places where you would insert keys, and you would have to wind this like a clock or a watch. And then as alarms came in through the day, one of the duties of the people that would be in the call center, the dispatch center, what they would have to do is to make sure that these stayed wound up. You'd have to wind them up from time to time. So if you had a busy day, you'd have to come in here and rewind it and make sure that it wasn't going to run out of energy.
Okay, so this is our dispatch piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what are they seeing in the fire department itself?
What they would see in the engine houses would be an indicator like this. And this also came from one of our engine houses. This would have been in something like Station 26 on Laurel Avenue or Station 27 on Schuler Avenue. Those houses were built in 1910.
And you can see the mechanisms. I mean, it looks like we're looking at more clockwork.
Once again, it's a lot of electromechanical. It is a series of things that you have to wind, and you can see down here you would wind this. It's kind of hard to pick up with the camera, but there's almost like a watch spring in here, and that would drive the bell, and then up here would drive the mechanism. And what would happen is the other device would send out the call numbers for the box. Whichever alarm box you pulled, or even back in certain industrial settings like the paper companies, they had alarm boxes that went directly to our call center.
Okay. Now, this over here.
Yeah, these would be the boxes that would be on the phone poles or the fire alarm poles throughout the city. And again, it's the same electrical mechanical thing, but this one it wouldn't be wound by anybody that was on duty. These would have to be maintained by people that were working. What happened with this one was when you opened the door and pulled the lever down, that actually wound the box. And there's a weight inside of here Unfortunately, we don't have the key to open it. There's a weight inside of here, and then there's a wheel, and it would lift that weight up, and then again, almost like a clock, the weight would start to fall, and as the weight would fall, it would spin the wheel, and the wheel had a number of teeth on it, depending on the box number. So if you had box 1, 2, 3, there would be 1 tooth, and 2 tooth, and 3 teeth, and as the weight fell, the wheel would turn, and it would actually send out a telegraph impulse that would go back to the main box, and then that telegraph impulse, because it was box 1, 2, 3, that information would show up here. This would change from 1 to 2 to 3, and then the bell would ring 1 time, 2 times.
And the fire department would
3
know
times.
which call box,
Right.
and the call box location.
Right.
Wow.
And then this would spin 3 times before the weight fell to the bottom and finished the cycle.
And how long were these in use? I mean, I can remember these all around town at one time.
I'm not sure in the city of Hamilton. In most cities, they were in use. In some cities, New York, I believe they still have some of these, some of the older eastern cities. But I believe the city of Hamilton took these out in probably the 60s or the 70s. I'm not real sure.
All right, well, Larry, what I'd like to do next is maybe take a look at some of the protective gear.
Sure.
All right, well, Larry, you know they like to tease me a lot about my hair on this show, and I can guarantee you this is a leather fire helmet.
Yes.
It's amazing. How long was something like this in use?
These were probably in use up until about the time when they started stamping out metal ones in the 30s and 40s.
Wow.
And then we went from metal helmets to fiberglass helmets to the modern polyresins that we have today.
So this actual helmet goes back to
Probably the
what date?
1910s, 1920s.
Okay. All right. And no, I'm not going to put it on as much as some would like me to. All right. But let's take a look at some of this. I mean, I look at something like this, and I can't imagine having to wear this. But if you were in a dangerous situation, this could be your lifesaver, right?
Yeah, this was what's called an oxygen breathing apparatus, or a chemox mask was kind of an industry term, and they were made by the MSA company, which predominantly did a lot of breathing protection for mines. That's where MSA came from.
I can see that.
Was Mine Safety Administration. So what you would do with this is up underneath the bottom, this would obviously go onto your face, and then this harness system would be worn up over your shoulders, and this would sit on your chest, not on your back.
Okay.
And then you would take this canister that has oxidizing material in it, and you would insert it up into that harness, and it would create a chemical reaction when it was opened. You puncture the top, and it creates a chemical reaction, and it actually creates oxygen. So on the sides of these areas that look like lungs would blow up just like your lungs, and you would breathe through these tubes from these lungs, and the air that you exhaled would go back into this. The units we use now, once you breathe the air from the air bottle, it goes out into the atmosphere. But this would go right back into here, and then it would get reoxygenated by the oxidizing material that was in here. It did have one drawback. It doesn't.
Just one?
Well, it doesn't work well with flammable liquids. So if you got that around diesel fuel or gasoline or anything else that was a combustible or flammable liquid, oxidizers and flammables don't go together, so they had a tendency to explode.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That's
so you kind of had to
amazing.
be careful where you used it. Water was okay, fuels not so much okay.
I understand. Glad I asked. All right, now Larry, let's go ahead and tie it all together then. One of our modern fire engines.
Correct.
And you are actually sitting in front of some breathing apparatus that is quite a bit more advanced than the chemox.
Right. The chemox masks we had before have been replaced with modern open circuit breathing apparatus. These are in what are called a jump seat. This is where a firefighter would sit. They face backwards en route to the scene. And then for safety, these are actually locked in. These won't come out. We also have seat belts back here because it's state law. But you'll wear this and your seat belt, but you have to have this locked in because if the truck gets involved into a wreck, you've got 35 pounds on your back that you don't want flying around. So once they got to the scene, they would lift up on this tab between their legs, and it releases the actual breathing apparatus, and they'll have this on their back, so they'll just walk away. Right, they'll strap this in en route, and then they'll walk away ready to go to a fire. And then instead of the face piece that you saw with that, this is the more modern face piece that would go on your face.
Okay.
The air, and it's air, it's not oxygen. The breathing air that's in here is compressed, so they're breathing the air from the bottle up through the regulators into the face piece.
Okay. Now, you were kind enough to lend us your helmet.
Yeah, helmets have changed.
Fiberglass.
Fiberglass, they're...
With a shield?
Yes. Oddly enough, they're heavier and they're bigger. You would think that in the way things go, they would get smaller and lighter, but they're heavier and bigger. Those are about
there is some
9.5 pounds.
Well, I'm still not going to put it on, but Larry, I want to thank you. This was fascinating.
Thank you for coming
down.
All right.
And then we're going to check out what stands for the latest technology here at the City of Hamilton Fire Department. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Firefighter Ben Adams. And Ben's going to take us through the latest technology that the fire department's using for responding to calls. Ben, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, first let's talk, how did this come about?
This came about a couple years ago. Actually, Captain Stamper, one of our other members here, had told me about an app that he had heard of where you could track members and track alarms. So we kind of looked into it then, but at that time our dispatch did not support it. So we really couldn't do much with it. And about a year ago, our dispatch was upgraded and we were able to use this service. So we got back into it again, looked at it again, demoed it for probably about 4 months with different phones and different tablets and computers. Then it was proposed to the command staff.
But who actually brought this to the attention of Fire Command?
That was me.
Okay.
That was me.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, nothing wrong with
No.
with that at all.
No, I mean, I was the one that demoed it and tried it out probably more than anybody else, but I gave some codes out to other members, so there was a few people involved that made sure that it was a stable platform, something that we could use, the information was relevant to what we needed, and that it was going to be something that we could rely on.
And when you talked earlier, we were talking a little bit about this. This was kind of a volunteer firefighter application. You mentioned members and equipment, so I guess volunteer firefighters, if they couldn't respond to a call.
Yeah, initially the system was built for that need because in a volunteer, they never know who exactly they're going to get, so it's important for them as well to know who's coming and who isn't. So that's where the system was initially designed, but it has grown well beyond that now. So.
Okay, and then of course, you know, again, this being kind of a grassroots effort to do something better and respond better. You had to make a presentation to the mayor, city manager?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was well received, and what they saw they liked. It's a simple system to sell because it does exactly what we need. It shows us where we're at and where we're going.
Now, you told me the cost, and I want to hold off on just announcing what that is for a little bit, but what are the pieces involved of bringing this system to your members here at the fire department?
Okay.
There's some iPads, I know that.
Yeah, all the units now have iPads placed in them, so that gives us an immediate display and we can see exactly what we're doing right there on the iPad.
Okay.
Most members, I would say we're above 90% of the members now have smartphones and have the system activated on there. So they also get it on their phone. So there's a mobile application. Mobile application on their phones, which is a redundancy, but it's good because every member now has the information, whether it be the address or the nature of the call, right in their fingertips. So if there's something that someone might not have seen, someone else's might catch it on their device.
What was the cost? I mean, to me, this sounds, when I first heard about it, sounds very, very expensive when we're talking about iPads and everything involved with that. But really, how much did it cost?
Well, the total cost was just over $8,600 for the whole department.
That's pretty economical.
That's very economical when you compare it to some of the other systems in use in other cities. It's a small fraction of what's cost, and considering what we're getting out of it, it's a big payout.
That's amazing. And is this being utilized elsewhere?
Yeah. There's several cities across the nation and even worldwide now are using the same system. Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us about it. How exactly does it work?
Okay, well, when a call comes in, we have our typical dispatch that we normally get, but on top of that now we have the layer of the Active911. So, whereas typically on a dispatch we may get very brief general information about the run, Now we can get detailed information that was given directly to the dispatcher.
And that's available by clicking into one of these.
That's available in here, and the information is displayed exactly what was told to the dispatcher, which is oftentimes more information than can be relayed through our radio communications. So now all members, whether it be on their phone or the iPad or even in-house with our monitors, can see a much more detailed nature of the call. We can also see the exact location of the call on the map. We can, if it's a fire call, we can see hydrant locations. So that's very important to us, and that's something that we never had available to us before. Some parts of the city have, some of the larger buildings will have more detailed information as far as FDC locations, which is where we hook up for a fire in a large structure. We'll need to know exactly where that location is so we can pump into the system and charge the sprinklers. That's something else that now we have immediately at our fingertips available.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, this is one thing that I learned through all this. Most people think that these sprinkler systems in buildings will just keep operating, but that's not correct, is it?
Well, it's not necessarily correct. Plus, we supplement the pressure into those systems to help suppress the fire too. So knowing the locations of these, although in the past we've been aware of them, but now we have them immediately available. It's taken out of our thought processes to worry about it necessarily. We can deal with other major issues, whether it be evacuation or just containment of the fire, and know exactly where to go with our FDC locations. And these are updated regularly, and they're seen by all members through inspections and updated. Everyone has a say-so in where these are located at.
What else as you look at this? Because I know some of the things that the guys were telling me about, if they want to put out general memorandums to the fire staff.
As far as the other services that are built into this, as far as paging members, absolutely is we believe a step ahead of what we had previously. So now we can page all members in one shot. All members receive the page within 10 seconds of the call, and members can respond accordingly based on the information given in the page. So we can get more information than we typically would, or in the past we would have. It can also be broken down by groups, whether it be in specialties that certain people are trained in, so we can just notify those groups if that meets the need.
Sure. I'm looking at this, and obviously you can get a street view. That's pretty common these days with these internet applications. But what about information that a firefighter would need, something that's more detailed?
That's available too, and what we've done with this is we've went in and we've communicated with the administrative and the maintenance personnel at different facilities in the city. This happens to be Westover Retirement Village.
Okay.
So here we've got our FDC locations and our hydrant locations, and we've also got a detailed map of the structure.
And when you say FDC, I just want to make sure, because our viewers won't know what that means.
It's a fire department connection. It's what we use to tap into the sprinkler system and the fire suppression system.
Okay.
So here we have a detailed view of the building. So if we know we've got an incident, whether it be medical or fire, in a particular room, we can very quickly determine where we need to locate our vehicles, where we need to enter as a staff, and also entry exits. So this is something also that's new with the Active911 that we didn't have before. Having the detail, and we've got several of those across the city, and they're growing as we go out and do inspections and meet with building representatives and get more of those that scan into the system. It's just continuing to grow. The other good thing about Active911 is that once that's done, it's immediately broadcast to all the members in their phones, their iPads, the screens. It's one time entered and it's done. The other big benefit of Active911 is being able to see locations of different units and see what their status is. In a fire incident or an EMS incident, it's very important that we know where people are and where they're coming from. We've lost a couple companies here in the past couple years, so it's very important to know who's coming where they're coming from, and how we can utilize them in the fire ground.
So can command staff dispatch a vehicle that, say, is closed out a particular situation and route them if they're
what command
closer?
staff will do is on their iPad in their vehicle is they'll see who's coming from where, and they'll make assignments based on that. So obviously the closest company is going to make initial fire attack, and some of the farther companies, depending on where the incident is, will be usually in a role to support that initial attack.
Sure. All right, Ben, let's talk a little bit about the school situations, because, you know, active shooter situations in schools are just becoming, unfortunately, too common these days. Can we take a look at a school and what you guys do to, say, interact with other emergency personnel at the scene?
Sure. A lot of the schools are currently being pre-planned so that we know in advance if there's an incident unfortunate enough as an active shooter or something along those lines. We would have a pre-planned setting where we would go. Also, we have floor plans located so we can see, based on the intelligence that we get from dispatch or other members on scene, where the incident may be occurring and where we would be best placed for EMS personnel or fire personnel.
So we're looking at the first floor of Riverview right now.
Mm-hmm. This is the first floor, and this is again something that was a combined effort between Hamilton Fire Department and Riverview staff to get these plans in place and in our hands. So this helps us a lot. I mean, as much as we try to be a part of the community and get out, there's so many buildings that to commit to memory every location and exit is almost beyond, you know, reason. So to have these available in any situation, and if it was an active shooter situation, this would be something that it'd be very beneficial to us.
Yeah, right there, literally at your fingertips.
Yeah, so we would know exactly room locations, exits. Yeah. Hopefully we never have to deal with that, but we do have a plan for it if necessary.
I know one of the things that we have going on in this city is the land bank program, where we're trying to buy up properties with blighted structures, but you know, certainly a blighted structure is going to present a problem for a firefighter. So what do you guys do? What do you know through Active911?
That's one of the other things we've done, is that we've labeled these buildings so that if a call comes into that location, we will immediately know that there's an issue here.
Okay.
We can zoom in on the building. We can get a photo of the building so we know which one we're dealing with. And these buildings are a big concern for us because the status of them is kind of unknown as far as their upkeep, interior. Sometimes we know there's debris or sometimes structural issues in there. So we want to be, you know, we're always careful, but we want to be extra careful in these kind of structures. So giving us the heads up before we even get there is a huge benefit to our safety.
Ben, we talked a lot about fire, but what about the EMS side? What of the Active911 system, what does that do to help the EMS side of the house?
One of the things EMS is a big part of what we do here.
Sure.
One of the benefits is knowing the location of squad units and where they're at, so we can better, you know, respond to scenes. One of the other things that we've done is we've been able to add information about particular patients. If we have a high risk or a critical patient in the neighborhood, we can add particular information from their doctor directly on the iPads in the units, so that responding units, when they arrive, they already know the patient history and care needed for that particular patient.
Stored and on file.
Stored and on file, and updated
amazing.
straight from their doctors. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Ben, with iPads, you've got to have access to a whole lot more than just Active911, which is no doubt pretty special. But
yeah. Active911 is definitely our primary source, but yeah, we now have availability to have up-to-date weather. We can see radar forecasts as you know, inclement weather moves into the city. We can use it for hazmat operations on some of the other programs that we've been able to load onto the iPads.
Okay.
And we really hope now that we have this base installed that we can just continue to grow. As Active911 grows with features, we can utilize those and any other app that comes along that can benefit us to benefit the citizens of Hamilton. That's really what we're here for.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, thanks. Busy day, first big snowfall in the city this year, but thank you for your time. I appreciate you being with us.
No problem.
And I want to thank you at home for watching TV Hamilton, hometown television with a personal touch. And from all of us here at CityVision, from the House Shepherd Fire Headquarters, thanks for watching.